So, welcome to the Smart Energy Treasure Hunt, where you'll find your path to save money, save energy, and protect the earth. Your tour guides today are Cindy Shepard, our Green Team's Director, me, Samantha Miller, Energy and Climate Change Outreach Coordinator, and Cindy Prost, our Illinois Policy Senior Coordinator. Faith in Place's mission is to empower people of diverse faiths and spiritualities to be leaders in advancing environmental and racial justice, providing resources to educate, connect, and advocate for healthier communities. And so, Faith in Place, we work in three states now as of March of this year, and that's Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. And we would like to know where you're from. So if you could put in the chat what city, state you're from, that'd be awesome. And so Faith in Place is the proud Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana affiliate of Interfaith Power and Light, which is a national organization working for environmental justice across the United States.
Hey, we welcome you from all over the state. It looks like we've got folks from Springfield and Champaign and Chicago and Gary, Indiana and Bloomington, Illinois. That is terrific. We're glad that all of you are here. The three states in which Faith in Place works represent 10% of the greenhouse gases that are emitted in the United States. And that's why we want to partner and work together in order to address the greenhouse gas problems that are causing the climate crisis. You know, as Midwesterners, the impacts of climate change are already being felt in very important and detrimental ways in our area. In the Midwest, we are subject to flooding because with the storms that come through are stronger and dump more rain at the one time. Our air quality is affected when we have a heat dome over the top of us, and we have these extreme temperatures, which unfortunately have been part of our life for the last almost 2 weeks. Extreme temperatures are a health concern for human beings, and they are not felt equally across the population. Of course, they're felt most acutely and they are most dangerous in communities that have low resources, where people are not able to afford air conditioning, and or where the communities have themselves been neglected, and where shade trees and cooling stations and parks that are accessible are not as frequent. So there's a unequal distribution of that. We put temperature on twice because it's just so important. It's not just the human beings that are affected, but of course, here we are in the agricultural belt, and we know that farming is adversely affected by heat, as well as our energy bills. All of us are paying more for energy because we have to run the air conditioner more during this time, and that those air conditioners are not exactly the most clean and energy efficient appliances in most of our homes. The climate crisis there for us is a justice issue as well as an environmental issue. And the slide you're looking at now tells a story of one under-resourced community that had to fight recently to keep industrial plant that would be emitting large amounts of pollution out of their area. The General Iron recycling, steel shredding, car bashing plant was wanting to move from a predominantly white area in North Chicago to an area near Calumet, which already was facing a lot of environmental burdens and polluting industries. So it's not just an environmental issue, it's a justice issue that people of faith are really called to answer and to address. We love this quote from Pope Francis and his Laudato Si. He says, we're not faced with two separate crises, one environmental and another social. We have one complex crisis that is both. So strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the underprivileged, and at the same time, protecting nature. And that's why we're so excited about people of faith becoming leaders in the environmental justice movement.
And so there are paths that you can follow to your energy savings, and they're right here where you live. So you can download the clue number one. You can download the Faith in Place Energy Saving Guide by going to our website and faithinplace.org/conserve-energy. And you give us your information and they'll email it to you. You can download that guide, the energy saving guide, and you can save on your energy bill. Ways to save on your energy bill. Also, you can sign up for smart energy use, and you can also visit Cub, and Cub can help you with energy bill basics. You can learn those as well, and sign up for alerts. So you can sign up for these two smart energy programs as well. They're through ComEd. These programs help you save money and help save our planet as well. And that's peak time savings and hourly pricing. So with peak time savings, this program alerts you and pays for using less electricity during high demand times. So high demand times typically occur from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can earn $5 to $12 credits up to 5 times on your utility bill for each peak time day that you reduce your electricity use. Isn't that great? $5 to $12 credit. Hourly pricing is a little different. You save money on your electric bill by signing up to pay for electricity at hourly prices. With this program, you will receive alerts. You can do it on your cell phone, tablet, or computer of high prices. So you can choose to use less energy in your home during times when prices are high in order to save money on your electricity bill. So you might decide to unplug some things, the lamps that you're not using, different things like that. But please do not unplug the refrigerator or the freezer.
All right, but we have a big caution here about using these hourly pricing and peak time rewards programs right now. They are also offered to Ameren customers, and it's possible for Ameren customers to sign up. But you want to be really cautious if you are considering doing that in Ameren territory, because as you probably all know, the Ameren has had a big price jump in the last few months, and there's going to be another one as well. And many of us who are in Ameren territory are part of municipal aggregation, where our municipality or our village negotiated with an alternative energy supplier, and we're all getting our energy supply from that alternative supplier at a negotiated rate that was comparable to Ameren's old rate. The municipal aggregation rate is usually about half of what Ameren is charging now. And if you switch to PowerSmart or peak time or hourly pricing, whatever the Ameren program is called, you have to switch your supplier to Ameren. So you may be able to save a little money on the Ameren rate, but you're going to be paying more than you would with the municipal aggregation rate that you are now paying. So look at your bill carefully. And if you are on a alternative energy supplier, right now might be a good time to sit tight. Caution. Am I talking about community solar? I'll talk about community solar. I love community solar. What a great idea. Became part of our energy mix with the passage of the Future Energy Jobs Act. And we started to see community solar come online in the last year or two. There are lots of projects around the state. You've received mailers, I would bet you a nickel, offering to sign you up for a community solar project, which could be great for you, and it could encourage the solar industry here in Illinois. So could I have the next slide? The way it works is you get a share of the larger solar farm that is somewhere in your utility area, but not necessarily next to your house. So homeowners that have shade on their property, homeowners who pay energy bills but are renting their property, or homeowners that can't afford the upfront costs of putting solar on their roof would normally be very good candidates for community solar, which community solar good deals will save you 20% on your electric supply bill and will have no upfront costs. So when you get a flyer about that, you could consider that. But here's the next slide. Caution, caution, caution if you're an Ameren customer, because again, you have to become an Ameren, Ameren has to become your supplier of electric energy when you sign up for a community solar project. So you may be saving 20%, but you're paying 50% to 100% more as the supply rate in general. So probably not a good deal at this point. Caution, caution, caution. If you are an Ameren customer and you already are paying those high bills, it will save you 20%, and you should consider it. But if you're in a municipal aggregation system and you have an alternative energy supply that's charging you 5.2 cents a kilowatt, then you're not going to be saving money if you go to community solar. I'm sorry to say. Oh, I said this before. A good community solar program will give you 20% savings on your supply rate and have no sign up or cancellation fees. And you can find out more about those community solar projects at faithandplace.org/solar. There's some good ones out there if your situation is right. Community solar saving you 20% off your supply side. The savings aren't going to knock you over, but when you work it out, when you work it out, you will save probably $80 to $120 a year. And frankly, that's real money, but it takes a while to add up. You're not only saving money with community solar, though, you're encouraging the community, you're encouraging the solar industry to grow here in Illinois. Another Illinois program that's really cool that came about because of the Future Energy Jobs Act and is being expanded because of the Climate Equity Jobs Act that was passed this last session is Illinois Solar for All. We love Illinois Solar for All because it is specifically designed to help homeowners who maybe are not able to put solar on their roof because of high upfront costs to join in the benefits of solar, and for their whole neighborhood then to join in the benefits of solar as well. It's an income qualified program, and there's different income guidelines for every county in Illinois. We put the two that are good examples here. There's no upfront cost for income eligible residents, and you just pay for the power you consume. If you are accepted for the Illinois Solar for All, you are guaranteed savings, significant savings on your energy bills. And by that, we mean savings in the range of 50%. So if your income qualifies you to apply for that, I'd strongly suggest that you find out a little bit more about it. And Christina, Samantha, or I would be happy to tell you a little bit more about how to get hooked up with the Illinois Solar for All program. So now we've got a poll.
Yes. Now we have a poll here. So we would like to ask you to please take our poll. Are you interested in community solar or the Illinois Solar for All program? And everyone who takes our poll will be entered into a drawing to win a $50 gift card. One person will be entered in, one person will win a $50 gift card. But if you take our poll, you'll be entered into this drawing. Okay, I think I got that.
You said it was a treasure hunt, Samantha, but no one expected real treasure.
Yes, Cindy, yes, real treasure, a $50 gift card.
Everybody had a chance to answer that poll? Mm-hmm. Looks like we're getting 6 answers. That's awesome. Very good. Let's see the poll results.
Oh.
You want to check your income eligibility and see if that $50 gift card is going to push you over the edge.
Okay, let's see. Come on. I'm having trouble sharing the poll results here. Sorry. Okay. Oh, there we go. Share results. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, we had 10 people participate and a majority are interested in both those programs, Community Solar and Solar for All. That is awesome. And I encourage you to get in touch with one of us. We can tell you more about it and point you to websites that will be full of information. How is the winner going to find out that they won? Will that be in the email?
Oh, so the winner will be contacted by email, if I'm not mistaken, and the gift card will be mailed to them.
Watch your mailboxes. All right, so up to now, we've been talking about clues and along the journey to energy savings that are things that we can do as individuals and that we can do with our families, that we can suggest to our houses of worship. But now we want to talk about some things that we can do to affect and lower energy prices and to find a better, more valuable energy system through policy change and being active and advocating for a better system of delivering and energy, producing and delivering and consuming energy. So that's why our special guest, Christina Crost, is here to talk to us about where we need to advocate and what we need to be advocating for as people of faith so that we all find the treasure. Christina?
Thank you, Cindy. Go back to that picture. Can you go back one more slide, Kira? I just wanted to mention that picture there was taken just about a year ago. It was real hot, so it must have been like August. It was at the state fair. If anybody knows when the state fair is, it was then. So there were advocates from around the state that descended upon the state fair all at the same time and coordinating in the same t-shirts to advocate on behalf of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, saying, you know, we across the state want this bill across the finish line. And, you know, 3 years of sustained advocacy worked. And so last year in September, that bill actually passed. And it was because of the advocacy of people of faith like you and environmental advocates all over the state for years making this happen. And so I just wanted to remind us that, as Cindy said, you know, the personal things we do in our homes to reduce our energy usage is really important, right? Because it hits us in the pocketbook. And that's, I know in my household with 3 children running around and, driving people here, there, and everywhere right now, it's a crunch on the family budget, to see an extra high energy bill. So that's really important. Our personal, change that we can make is really important. But in the long term, big scope of things, it's policy change that's really going to make a really big impact for the most people. Why don't we go to the next slide then? So, as part of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that again passed and was signed into law last September, there was a rebate or there was a program called the Carbon Free Energy Resource Program that if you are a customer of ComEd, you are receiving a credit. This particular one looks like it's about $25 on a bill because CEJA, Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, helps save us money by using clean energy and by prioritizing clean energy, right? So this was really exciting, right? I would take $25 of a credit on my energy bill right now. That would be fantastic. And so again, because of the advocacy for the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, ComEd customers are seeing a monetary benefit in their bills right now. Yay, if you're a ComEd customer. I, however, am an Ameren customer, and I believe that some others of you on this call right now are also Ameren customers. So why don't we have a little chat about what's going on there and what we can do to help make that better. So let's go to the next slide. So Ameren announced, as the weather started getting warmer in the last couple of months, that they would be increasing their rates by quite a bit. Now, there's usually a little fluctuation in our bill from the summer to the winter, right? And we see, fluctuations in our prices, sometimes month to month. But I want to clear up a few things before we go on here, that this rate hike has nothing to do with the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act being passed in Illinois. You might hear or see people on the internet saying things like, oh, all this renewable energy is ruining my energy bills. And that is actually not what's happening here. So there are some things that are happening globally that are causing instability in our energy systems. One being Russian aggression in Ukraine has really interrupted like the gas markets and things like that. And just that whole energy sector has gotten really volatile in the last few months. The other issue, though, that's a little more regionally specific to us is that if you live in outside of ComEd territory. So if you are an Ameren customer or a municipal or co-op customer, so south of Chicago, or in any of the other, 15 or 16 other states that are on the MISO, Mid-Continent Independent Service Operator, I think, grid, MISO grid. If you live in that territory, you buy energy from what's called this capacity market. And the grid is huge, and it's basically like the Midwest-ish. It goes as far south as Louisiana, and it goes pretty far west to north up to Minnesota. But this grid helps to supply a lot of us, Ameren customers, with our energy. And so what Ameren does is a couple times a year, they buy capacity off of this market, and then they pass along whatever price they get on the capacity, the energy that is generated throughout the MISO territory. They pass that cost along to us. Ameren doesn't generate their own electricity. They buy it off the capacity market. Okay, so to be fair, Ameren is not increasing their rates because they've decided they're going to charge us more for what they generate. That's not what's happening. It's because they have to purchase the capacity off of the grid and then they pass that cost along to consumers. Okay, well, there is a lot of balancing that has to happen on that grid to make everything work just right. And as the climate changes, as it gets hotter for longer in different places within the MISO grid area, there is instability and uncertainty as to where we need power and when. And there's, it's a whole engineering, I'm sure, nightmare to make sure all the energy gets to where it needs to go when it needs to get there, right? And we've been able to enjoy, a grid where it's been mostly pretty stable for a long time. However, there has been some shifting and changing happening in the grid that had not been long-term planned for, meaning some of the capacity that MISO thought they would have, they don't have all of a sudden. And so long-term grid planning helps to avoid that issue, but sometimes some of the power plants that were on the grid have gone off the grid and without much warning and planning. So that's not great. There's also an issue with infrastructure. You may have heard that word being thrown around a lot lately in these exciting times of infrastructure bills and money getting funneled to states for that. MISO needs to upgrade their infrastructure, their different lines, to be able to integrate all of the wind and solar that's coming onto the grid, which is really exciting. There is a queue a mile long of all of the different renewable energy projects that need to come online and are ready to go and ready to be interconnected onto the grid. The problem there is that if the actual power lines are not ready to receive that energy, you can literally melt them. These are things that you learn when you start researching this. So there needs to be upgrades to a lot of these lines to be able to take on this renewable energy. So we got a whole mess in the capacity market right now, leading to higher costs for consumers. Now, if Ameren as a utility emphasized energy efficiency more and demand response programs like the peak time program or even the hourly pricing programs, if Ameren had prioritized them, they would not have to buy so much capacity because us as consumers would have lowered how much energy we need in our households, right? Well, that's not what's happened. And so when you don't have good energy efficiency programs, you have to buy more capacity. And therefore, Ameren has to buy a lot more capacity than they actually need if they had just gotten consumers more adapted to demand response programs that lets you know when the energy load is high and when people need to back off their usage a little bit. That if that had been a commonplace thing in Illinois, we would maybe be able to respond a little bit differently to this rather than just yelling about our bills going up. So what can we do about this? Again, looking at the long-term policy implications and long-term policy changes that need to happen. We need to improve our energy efficiency in our homes. And we need to ask our utility to improve their energy efficiency programs as well, and to make those more available to consumers. There's also a petition that we have. It is in the chat right now, where we are collecting signatures from people like you. You don't have to be an Ameren customer to fill it out, by the way. You can feel free to fill that out wherever you might be. And we will deliver these to Ameren with a coalition of other organizations like ours sometime later in the summer to tell Ameren there's a lot you could be doing right now to ease the burden on consumers. Please be doing those things. And some of that includes, putting people on payment plans and such to be able to afford their energy bills. But doing the long-term things to fix the problem in the first place would be a good place to start as well. So there is a petition in the chat that you can sign to tell Ameren to help consumers. And there is also a blog that I've written about some of these issues. Might be helpful, especially as you see people maybe in Facebook or maybe, at the coffee hour during church, yelling about renewable energy being the cause of all of these problems, or yelling about, we're going to have blackouts, but everybody should get an EV. Like they think they understand the grid and they don't. So when you encounter people who don't understand that, you might wish to use this blog post as a place to help educate, and help center the conversation of, gee, what exactly does all this have to do with me and how can I do a little bit better? So the blog will be, I think, in the chat coming up here really soon as well. So that is all I have to tell you about policy change. And I believe, no, who's wrapping up?
Oh, Cindy, right here.
I will do that. I'm just speechless hearing about the
Yeah.
policy issues that are made. And I have to tell a personal story. After the Future Energy Jobs Act passed, it had energy efficiency goals for each of ComEd and as well as Ameren. And the first thing that happened after that bill passed was that Ameren petitioned the ICC or the IPC to have their energy efficiency goal reduced significantly. And they said, all our people are out in the country. We can't reach them with energy efficiency stuff. And they talked their way out of the goal that was set. And now we're all paying the price for it. So I remember that clearly because several people of faith went up to that ICC hearing room, and we testified that we were quite willing to do energy efficiency programs if they were offered, and that we would help Ameren do it. And they said, no, thank you. So that was that. So even though the road is rocky, we do have a map to save money, to save energy, and to protect the earth from the effects of greenhouse gases. And so I'm just going to review. We've got an energy efficiency guide for you to use in your own homes and families. Everything from LED lights to turning off the computer in the evening with a great power smart power strip. We've got smart energy programs that you could investigate with your utility for power smart pricing and peak time rewards pricing. Community solar can be a great way to sort of reshape the energy grid and save yourself some money. But again, be cautious if you're in the Ameren vice grip right now. And Illinois Solar for All is a program to help communities that are under-resourced and households that are under-resourced to be included in the benefits, health, economic, and employment benefits of the clean energy economy. So all of those things are important. Christina talked about them as individual helps for our own budgets. I also like to say they're sort of spiritual disciplines, because when we're doing those things, we keep ourselves focused on what's really important to us, which is making a better world for all the people that have to inhabit it together. And for that, spiritual discipline of turning off lights and energy efficiency programs helps spur us to be active in advocating for policy change. So now, Samantha, you want to ask him? I think this is the best question.
Yes. Where will you look for treasures? So we have our Faith in Place website. We have resources there, or you can call or go on the website of your energy supplier, utility supplier. It's a whole bunch of things you can do. And lastly, you can call us. We can help, assist. Next slide. You can put that in the chat too, if you like. Questions and answers. Any questions?
Christina, Mary Monahan here. And
What was the last thing you shared with us, website wise?
Maybe the blog?
I think
Maybe-
that's right.
Okay, I'm gonna put that back. Let me put that back in the chat.
Right.
If I can find it.
Oh, it's kind of fast.
Is it the one that says, Faith in Place, post what's going on?
Yes.
Nope. With the Illinois grid?
Yes, that's the blog post. If you're looking for the petition though, that is, I will put that in the chat right now too. It was in the chat. There it is. Thank you, Kira.
I was gonna say, I found it in there. I thought you had, oh, energy savings guide. Maybe that was what I was thinking of.
Okay,
I'm finding them now in the chat.
Okay.
great.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Any
So
other
that-
questions? Any other questions? Anyone else has any questions?
I
Yeah,
see
that-
it. Dale has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of interesting with what Ameren has done this year, solar companies in Southern Illinois are selling more solar right now than they did all last year. And so more people are going to solar because of Ameren than any other time or any other increase in electricity I've ever seen. And so there is a benefit, if there is such a thing, for Ameren increasing the prices, which is, as we all know, is awful, but
Yeah,
it's-
Well,
that's,
thanks for pointing out the silver lining, Dale.
Yeah.
That's great.
and I was just gonna chime in and point out maybe less so of the silver lining that those that can afford solar are gonna do it. And those that maybe don't have access to that kind of capital up front struggle to do so, which is why having that Solar for All program makes it accessible and equitable for a lot more folks. But more solar is good. We want it to be as fair as possible.
Carolyn Vance has a question.
So I'm wondering, when we were talking about the infrastructure needs and also the group that Ameren buys their energy from, does that mean we would face similar issues as Texas has, where they had what my siblings called snowpocalypse? They all lived through it.
Yeah.
Because they're all in Texas. That was a pretty serious thing, and I don't think their energy company has taken the steps to solve that long term. But is that a similar thing, or?
Very good question. And actually, I'm trying to find, I did a blog post on that too. I'm trying to find where that one is. So the difference between Texas and Illinois, and this is an excellent question, and this might be one that, you know, it's a logical question. Like, I don't want this to happen in my state. If, you know, rolling brownouts and blackouts have not been a thing here before, why all of a sudden are we having such a hard time? The difference in Texas is that Texas is on, you know, a lot of things about Texas are that rugged individualism and that independence from anyone else. That also means their grid is separate from any other grid in the area. So in Texas, they're not connected to other states nearby. The MISO grid is connected to, like I said, it's 16, 18, something like that, other states, where if something catastrophic happens in, you know, an area where they generate electricity, we can get energy from other places to come to us. And it's not really an issue. You know, you might notice a little disruption in your, you know, service momentarily, but we can reroute power from lots of other places to get to us. I won't say there's, you know, no interruption, but it would not be the absolute catastrophe that Texas had. The other thing is that, you know, we are required in the Midwestern states to winterize any of our infrastructure, be that a natural gas pipeline, be that, wind turbines, be that anything, we winterize because we have winter. Texas has been so unused to having winter that they did not winterize any of their materials. That goes for pipelines, that goes for wind turbines, which if they had had more of that online, they actually would have been in better shape than if, you know, they were firing up more of the natural gas pipelines and things. So because they did not winterize, because they are a very they want to keep regulation low in their state, it kind of came around to bite them. So those changes have not been made. So this absolutely can happen again in Texas, unless the companies themselves have invested in those kinds of winterization measures, because I don't believe they've been compelled to do so by their government.
Right.
Yep, that's a great question though.
Yes. Jaleesa and Carolyn Vance have their hands up. Jaleesa, go.
Hi, you all. This is Jaleesa Malden. I was just listening to you all talk about your process or the fact that you were able to petition your energy providers. Can you speak more about that process and how it began?
Petitioning our utility. So I'm not entirely sure where that began.
That's such a good question. We may
Yeah.
have to get back to you, Jaleesa.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you ask that for me one more time? I want to make sure I'm getting at what you're asking.
Just what the process looks like to petition energy providers, because I know here in Gary, we're drastically different from ComEd. And I think it was a year ago where we suffered like days not having access to any electricity because of storm outages. So it's very interesting to see the differences between states, because I lived in Illinois for a considerable amount of time. But when I got out here, it just seems like they disregard this area a lot when it comes to ensuring safe and consistent energy. And also, I don't know if we really focus on renewable energy out here. So I would love to talk more about that, but also being able to kind of provide people with information about how they can contact their energy providers.
Sure. So I think I understand what you're getting at. Thank you for restating that for me. I appreciate it. So I think the difference here in Illinois, we have two investor-owned utilities, ComEd and Ameren. And those investor-owned utilities have quite a bit of regulation over them, and governmental oversight by what's called the ICC and the Illinois Power Agency as well. We got eyeballs looking at our grid, looking at how they do business, and holding them accountable when they don't. We also have a series of municipal providers as well as co-ops throughout the state. They do not have the same oversight as the investor-owned utilities. It's kind of the Wild West. But our lever of power here is that so many people find themselves, customers of this utility. And so, the lever of power is to say, look, I understand a little bit about how the grid operates. And so I'm going to, make sure or ask for you to do the things that would make, energy efficiency easier to access. That comes at somewhat of a cost to a utility. They have to prioritize that and, budget that out, because think about it, they're not making a profit on energy that we're saving, right? They're not making a profit off of, for us to use less energy, that's less profit for them. Okay. So that is definitely an ask that a consumer can make But a corporation, you know, an investor-owned utility like Ameren might say, yeah, we're not going to do that. And for a long time, they have. So our power as a consumer is just in numbers. And our power as consumers is also making sure that our elected officials are aware of what's happening as well, because these investor-owned utilities have to answer to, again, the ICC and, you know, the legislature. There have been hearings held recently where, you know, we openly talk about concerns that, you know, constituents are calling their representatives and saying, I can't afford my electric bill. And that's not okay for anybody, right? So it is a back and forth process. And then I'm learning about more and more every day. Indiana, I think, has, again, a little different setup. And so the hinges of power there and the levers of power there are going to be a little bit different. But we'll talk more about that.
Yes. And so do we have time for one more question? Carolyn Vance, and then we'll
I
go
already
to the
asked
next slide.
mine, so yeah, I'm good.
Oh, we got to take Carolyn's hand down. Let me see if I can do that.
Okay,
Nicole
Carol.
Salisbury has her hand up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. I was wondering, okay, you said we've got investor-owned utilities like ComEd and Ameren. I'm here in Springfield, Illinois, and so I use CWLP. What's the relationship between, you know, utilities like CWLP and other municipal utilities and Ameren?
So there isn't a relationship there. They're a municipal utility, so they kind of get to do their own thing. And if you remember, Nicole, like back when we were all negotiating and working on CEJA, that some of this bill hinged on CWLP and, you know, how grumpy they were getting that they were going to be told that we were going to be decarbonizing our energy sector on certain targeted dates. And they didn't like that idea very much because that requires them to have to invest differently in renewable energy and take their coal-fired stuff offline, you know, on a timeline, which they already had a timeline. It just maybe wasn't exactly, it was maybe a little more accelerated than they had. Nobody, I think we've noticed this, I don't know if you noticed people saying they don't like to be told what to do during COVID times and all of that. They don't like being told they have to do something. Same with energy policy. So this is just a case of a muni not liking, you know, being told what to do.
So, so although Ameren customers are going to see a rate hike, does not mean that I'm necessarily, or people who use CWLP are going to see a rate hike because they're separate.
No, separate. So CWLP generates its own electricity.
Got it.
Through the coal-fired power plants there. And I think you have a little bit of solar here and there, but so you would want to check in with your utility, but you are not subject to the Ameren stuff. You have your own utility and generation right there in Springfield.
Okay, and Ameren does not generate its own electricity. Did you say that?
Nope. Yep. They do not generate their own electricity. They buy it off the market.
Okay.
And the generation, some of that does happen in Illinois, but it's not owned by Ameren.
Okay, and the same goes for ComEd. They don't generate their electricity.
They've split off that as well. Yes.
Thank you.
And they're in a different grid. They're on the PJM grid, which is a different grid from MISO, which is why they're getting credits on their bill right now. And we're paying more than twice of what the credit is for ComEd.
Okay, and one last question. Can I ask another question? If there's, okay. You mentioned the situation between Russia and Ukraine. Can you go in depth and a little bit and tell us how that is impacting us here? Can you make the connection?
Generally speaking, there is a lot of natural gas produced out of that region of the world. And so a lot of that is exported out. And so when we have to export things, it costs more money, right? When we can't get things in a quick and timely manner like we, typically do, it costs more. So just the instability of people being able to get energy on demand when they want it has caused a lot of uncertainty in those markets. That's about all I know about that.
That's enough.
Other than it's just complicated. But think about the global oil market as well.
Mhm.
We're watching gas price skyrocket right now, but actually the cost of oil is about what it was this time last year. So what is that about? Corporate price increases and corporations wanting more profit and gouging customers. It's not about the actual price of gas being so much higher and then passing that to consumers. It's a money grab.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great questions. Thank you,
Yep.
everyone.
We have to end on a better note than that, please. It's so depressing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
No, I was going to add, if anybody would like to spend about 4 hours with me sometime, I can talk to you about gas and oil prices around the world. That's something I've dealt with for a long time. And you have to
Gosh.
realize the United States gets, I'll just say one thing, United States gets 8% of their oil from Russia. Yeah,
That's not
so,
much. Yeah.
yep.
But it's causing a
Wow.
whole deal. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Dale, I'm
it's-
coming down
What
to your neck of the woods in a couple days. Maybe I'll look you up.
What happened to salt? What happened to oil in the Middle East? If we're getting 80% from Russia and not the Middle East?
No, it's
8.
8.
8%. Yeah.
8%. Oh, I was about to say.
It's worse. It's even worse.
Oh my gosh. Like what rock have I been living under?
Oh, so thank you everyone for these great questions. So we are almost at time. And if you have any more questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll get back to you soon. To connect with us, we're on all the social media platforms at Faith in Place. Let's see, our email addresses are Samantha at Faith in Place and Cindy at faithinplace.org. And our Faith in Place website is info@faithinplace.org. Next slide. And before you go, we have an upcoming event. It's our Faith in Place July monthly call. All are welcome, your community, your networks, let's see, your family and friends, and that's July 21st at 6:30. It'll be virtual through Zoom. And to support Faith in Place's work, we would greatly ask you and appreciate anything you can donate. No amount is too small or too big. So have a good night and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.